Hey guys, today we are back with a review of the Xiaomi portable Bluetooth speaker, bracket 16 watts. So there's no particular model name for this. They put out so many speakers, I don't know how to name them anymore, except that this is just the portable Bluetooth speaker, bracket 16 watts. Why 16 watts? It puts out 16 watts of power, 8 times 2 channels. Let's dive right in. So what we have here, this is a true wireless stereo capable speaker, meaning to say if you have a pair of these, just by putting the speaker in pairing mode, stereo pairing mode, you will be able to detect another of the same model nearby and set them up in true stereo. I don't have a second set to test, unfortunately, so this is what we're going to be living with today. If you ask for my summary up front, why I actually decided to review this speaker, a couple of things. It has USB-C charging, which is actually more modern than some of the older Xiaomi speakers. They last quite a long time, so I won't be surprised if you still have a few of them working, still lying around. But now it has been updated with a USB-C port, so that's a plus point, and it has a line in. The JBL Flip 5 that I've recently reviewed has no line in, and for those of you who are familiar with the Sonos Roam speaker here, it also doesn't have a line in. Both are Bluetooth speaker, and well, the Roam is also a Wi-Fi speaker, but the JBL just a pure Bluetooth speaker. This Xiaomi is a Bluetooth and it accepts a line-in input, which is great. So the short summary up front, I think the sound is great. It is loud. It gets really, really loud. And most of the recent small portable speakers of around this size, and to hold everything up for comparison, this is how it looks like. So the speakers around this size, they actually put out a tremendous level, a tremendous volume, so loud that it will probably fill a room quite well, if not with a very even bass, at least loud enough to irritate quite a few people. So other than that, I will go through the features a little bit. And if you have time to stay around, stay around. I will do the frequency sweep response of this speaker and probably compare it with the JBL, which is a probably evenly priced. Let me tell you, this speaker cost me only 60 odd dollars in Singapore dollars. So if you convert it to US dollars, it's about $50. And on top of that, I think Amazon or some other websites, they constantly run discount at 20, 25, even up to 30% discount coupon. So just imagine if you could get this for 35 US dollars as opposed to whatever the JBL is charging, or even the Sonos Roam. So again, I think that's a huge superpower that you're looking at for this particular speaker. So on the box, okay, very quickly, I'll just talk about it. It's rated at 16 watts. So this speaker itself is, the name is a portable Bluetooth speaker, bracket 16 watt. So that's part of the name, 16 watts. And it is true wireless stereo, meaning to say if you have another one of these nearby, you could press a button and they will pair up to give you a much wider sound stage and overall a much better sound. Usually I tend to buy speakers in stereo pair unless I'm not sure whether I want to keep them for the long term or not. And in this kind of portable situation, actually, if you're going to be bringing out a house, most likely, more often than not, you won't be caring about stereo sound. You just want it to be portable and loud, and like really loud, right? And it says here dual EQ modes. I haven't downloaded any software for this, so I don't know how to activate the the second EQ if there's one, or the second profile. It claims up to 13 hours of play time. I have not verified that. 13 hours of playtime is actually quite a long time. You just imagine going to the pool, and if you're hanging by the pool for 2 hours and you're going to the pool twice a week, that will last you like 3 weeks before it starts running out. Is my math correct? No, 2 weeks. But anyway, a long time. And talking about the pool, it is waterproof, right? IPX7. So the X says that it won't be able to take any dust ingestion, but the 7, the second number 7, says that this can be submersed in water up to 1 meter for 30 minutes at a time. And the last thing here, very important, it has a built-in microphone. In other words, if you're going to have a call, you can actually use this as a speakerphone. You can talk to it and you can hear the sound coming from it. In the Bluetooth profile, when you set this up with your PC, you will actually see 2 Bluetooth speaker. One is a headset and the other one is a speaker. So choose the headset and you'll be able to use the built-in mic on this and communicate make your calls, make your Teams call, make your Skype calls, Zoom calls, whatever calls, if you are not working from the office and if you need to telecommute, then I think this is a great addition, especially at this price point. Okay, so thanks for hanging around. And what I'm going to do next is to do a frequency response sweep. Now, in a lot of my videos, when I test out speaker, where possible, I will actually run a series of frequency response sweeps. What it does is that I will play a series of tones in very quick succession from 20 hertz all the way to 20 kilohertz, right? So, and it will measure the output from there. And what comes out is you can visualize the kind of sound characteristic of a speaker. Say, if the bass is too high, or if the treble is too sharp or too low, or is lacking in the mid-tones, everything comes out visually. So instead of just telling you what I hear, what I think, what I feel, and use some adjectives which you can't really, visualize or quantify, I pull up this kind of frequency response charts. I walk you through it, and that's what I do for my channel. So if you are interested in this kind of things, do consider subscribing and staying around. I focus a lot on wireless audiophile products. So without further ado, let's pull up the charts. And this is what I have here. So in some of my previous videos, I have actually done away with the white background and I just using my fingers, but I realized that you can't really see it very well and you lose track of the scale. So I'm trying this format out. Let's see whether this is okay or not. Let me know what you prefer, right? Whether it is just a simple line for relative reference or if you would prefer something a little bit more technical. So let's try this. There are two curves which are loaded here. So basically on the left, you will see this is the starting point of a 20 hertz, which is in the very deep bass region, all the way up to 20 kilohertz on the right. All right. So the light blue curve that you are looking at, this one here, okay, which I'm highlighting in yellow now, that represents the frequency response of the Xiaomi portable Bluetooth speaker 16 watts. Okay, I'm just going to call it the Xiaomi speaker now. And at 50% volume. So at 50% volume, this is the frequency response. It hits a peak of 85 decibel. Again, I'm measuring it about 8 to 10 inches away from the speaker. So this is not normalized. It's just that if it were to be 8 to 10 inches away from you, that is the kind of loudness you're going to be hearing from the speaker, right? So at this point, this is about 200 hertz. It is picking up. So from 200 hertz and below, the bass will keep falling off. So, in a way, I would tell you that this guy is not a bass monster, right? But it does get loud. And how loud does it? It actually carries it all the way through to 20 kilohertz very, very well. So I was actually quite surprised at the frequency response of this. Now, the light blue curve is 50% volume. So what happens when you jack up the volume to 100%? So in a lot of modern speakers, especially the smaller speakers, when you jack up the volume, because the drivers are so small, the DSP actually pulls down some of the frequencies, especially in the bass region. So anything below 100 or 200 hertz, they will start tailing it off because the amps just don't have enough power and the drivers are simply too small to replicate those kind of frequencies at that kind of amplitude, because that would mean that the drivers need to move a lot more. And at that size, can you imagine how big the drivers are going to be? It's probably just going to be about this size, right? There are two drivers here. And you simply won't be able to get that kind of volume. But in this particular case, if you look at the 100% volume output curve, there is actually very little change in the sound profile. There's a little bit of tempering off of this bass curve below, say, about 100 hertz or so. But otherwise, the increment is actually pretty even throughout, right? So they did a little bit of pulling back in terms of the bass response from below 100 hertz, but otherwise, the sound profile looks pretty consistent, which is a good thing, right? Meaning to say, they are actually putting the 16 watts to quite good use. If you hear the music coming from this guy, I have to get you guys. I mean, I don't want to record it or record anything now because it's quite late at night. But anyway, just trust me, you will actually get quite loud sounds from this speaker. Now, for comparison's sake, I'm going to pull in the JBL speakers, okay? And again, I'm not pulling in curves from previous tests because different days, different setup, different distances. I just don't want to confuse. So I did a fresh frequency sweep for the JBL Flip 5. And let me just compare both the 50% curve. So I'm going to take away the Xiaomi portable speaker, 100%, and I will pull in the light red curve. And this is the JBL Flip 5, right? Red line for the red speaker, blue line for the blue speaker. Sorry, I guess I was being blocked. Red line for red speaker and blue line for the blue speaker. If you allow me, I'm just going to give you a very quick primer on what this is. Anything that is below 200 hertz, you will hear that as bass, and anything that's between 200 hertz to 800 hertz, that's the human vocal range. Some of the sopranos will go higher, some of the female voices will go a little bit higher, but in general, once you go past 3,000-4,000 hertz, 3 or 4 kilohertz, you are mostly listening to treble, right? Now, if you look at this red curve here, this light red, okay, the JBL, you will notice one thing is that the bass is actually a lot more pronounced. The voice range, the vocal range is actually a lot more pronounced than the Xiaomi speaker that you have here. But at a certain point, right about almost 1 kilohertz, right, where it is, well, 1 kilohertz test tone, how does it sound? But anyway, the 1 kilohertz mark, the Xiaomi actually starts performing a lot louder, right? So at 50% volume, and this is 50% volume, mind you, the bass coming out from the JBL is tremendous, right? It is a lot louder than the bass coming out from the Xiaomi speaker. But past 1 kilohertz, the Xiaomi speaker shines right through, all right? So in terms of overall volume, at a slightly further distance, you will get the impression that at 50% volume, this Xiaomi is sounding louder, right? Because you tend to hear more treble at a slightly longer distance, whereas for bass, the fall off in terms of the energy that you feel actually it falls off quite quickly with distance. So if you're going to be putting it next to you, say like at this distance, all right, the bass can really be heard on this guy. But in a party situation, in the by the pool situation or the backyard barbecue kind of situation where you have a group, this is going to sound louder at 50%. Now, we have the 100% curve, so why don't we pull up the 100% curve? So, and this is the 100% curve for the Mi Portable, which we saw earlier, and this is the 100% curve for the JBL Portable. Now, if you look at the JBL Flip 5, at 100%, the gap is actually a lot closer to the Mi speaker, right? Overall, if you at 100%, most frequency range throughout, it actually is sounding louder than the Xiaomi speaker, right? But you have to bear in mind, you are possibly going to pay 2 or 3 times the price of this guy. And if you're going to pay that kind of price for one of these speakers, actually, you might do well to buy a pair of these. A pair of these, playing at the same time, will definitely drive the blue curve to go above the red curve, right? And not only that, you get more separation, you get an even coverage of bass, and the soundstage will open up tremendously. Not to mention, you still have the line in. This doesn't have a line in. And if you recall what I was talking about, the when you increase the volume for small speakers, the DSP tries to pull back. Now, to make it clear to you, I'm going to remove the curve for the Xiaomi Portable. This is the JBL, right? At 50%, which is the light red curve here, you will see that actually it is emphasizing the bass quite a bit. But when you hit 100%, the sound profile changes completely. The curve looks completely different. They can boost up the treble quite a bit still. They can boost up the treble, the mid-range quite a bit still. But once it hits the bass portion, it actually cannot increase by the same amount as it can increase the mid-range and the treble. So overall, when you increase the volume from 50% to 100%, it actually starts to sound different already. The bass is still there, it's still going to be louder, but it's just not keeping up with the rest of the frequency response range. Now, what that means is that when you're listening to this speaker at different volumes, it's going to sound like a slightly different speaker. And this is as opposed to the Xiaomi Portable, which I will pull up here. The sound profile is actually pretty similar. Okay, pretty similar, not exactly the same, but at least for most parts of it, it's going to stay consistent, right? Only the bass region is going to be tailed off a bit at the full 100% volume. In summary, I think this is a great small speaker. I think in recent years, right, all these small speakers, they have gained in terms of quality so much, right? And the sound coming out from it, it just sounds unbelievable already. I think the trend was, well, not started, but really it pinnacle at the DeVillet reactors. I think there was a DeVillet reactor 600 watts, 900 watts, and the sound coming out from something that size, it amazes me. So I've been looking out at these kind of small portable speakers, which are battery driven, right? Can you imagine all this sound coming from battery power? So you can bring them out to the pool. You can bring them out when you are traveling. You can bring it out to the picnic, to the park, wherever you go, and you will be able to get very, very decent sound coming from these speakers. And this is exactly what I'm going to do. If you see me put a snippet of this guy when I'm out tomorrow during my walk, then bonus track for you. Otherwise, I'll see you guys in the next video.